Welcome to another Rowdy Thursday, and that can mean one thing and one thing only. It is a brand new episode of A Worthy Addiction.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the home of all hobbies, hosted
What?
not those. No,
You're not allowed to fuck up on this. You're not allowed to fuck up on this intro tonight. You're not
ladies and
allowed
gentlemen,
to do
the
that.
home of all hobbies, a show like no other, hosted by none other than me and my Rowdy brother. So let me not waste any time introducing him. He is a man known to make the ladies' knees weak when he speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, my man, Unworthy Dynamite Collector.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. And you may know my co-host over here. He is the man. He is the myth. He is more myth than he is legend. Mr. Toy Addict 17.
Thank you. And for everybody that's watching, if you're watching live right now, if you're watching on the replay, we thank you so much for your support. Again, we thank you for just tuning in with us every Thursday and just showing us some love and just kicking back and having fun with us. Unworthy, we have an awesome show tonight. I cannot wait.
We really do.
How are you doing, buddy? Just checking in. I feel like I haven't spoken to you.
I am doing really good, and I want to tell you, it's hard to not do good when you get a care package like this from Food Stamps. Sent me an awesome autograph book, this little handy dandy coaster that's going to work well for my White Claw cans.
There you go.
Cool guy's pin. Come on, how could I be in the bag?
How can you not thank Rios for that? Shout out to Food Stamps.
Shout out to our bro Rios.
Yes, definitely. Go check out that episode. He was an amazing guest and a fantastic artist too. So definitely, it's been a easy going week for me. And I've been having fun just kicking back, enjoying life, man. But you know what? Enough about us, because I'm not gonna be us anymore. Enough about us. We have a special guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Very honored to have our guest tonight. And I'm not gonna waste any time introducing him. I'm ready to get him on here and talk with him, because I've been wanting to talk with him all week. I think you mentioned it in backstage. I'm a real fanboy.
Yeah, he's a big mega fan of our guest tonight. So
big fan.
Pardon his fanboy hanging out multiple times. It's sure to come.
Yes, big fanboy. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our guest tonight is an award-winning director, writer, and producer. In 2016, he started Womp Stomp Films. Ladies and gentlemen, he brought us Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and Never Hike Alone 2 now. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the man behind the mask, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Vicente DiSanti. There he is. Woo!
Hey, what's up, guys? Good to see you. Thanks for Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here. Thanks for that rowdy introduction. I feel very special now.
There you go. We try to bring the energy every episode. We try to I know it's been a long week for us, so we usually try to just bring the energy and get everybody going and stuff like that. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. I was telling you backstage, we're really honored to have you on and taking this evening just to hang out with us and get to know you, because again, tonight the spotlight's on you and we got so much to impact tonight. So overall, how are you doing? Vince, how's everything?
Good. I mean, it's the post Never Hike Alone 2 glow, I guess you could say. We're in the middle of getting ready for the Blu-rays, which will be shipping out later this spring and early summer. We got a lot of backers, you being one of them. So thank you for the support. Nice shirt. Now, when did I send you that shirt, or how did I get it to you?
This is the Never Hike Alone Ghost cut. This was with the first film from the Kickstarter. Yep.
So cool. A generational backer, not just for Never Hike Alone 2, but coming in. So thank you for the support over the years, obviously.
Absolutely.
So it's just sort of in that mode where, we got to put together. There's a lot to put together. There's behind the scenes. We've been getting a lot of the subtitles in. They've been coming. We had a lot of volunteers volunteer their time. So Brazilian Portuguese came in, Spanish, French, Italian, German's being worked on. We're going to get Portuguese, and then someone just volunteered to do Korean. So
wow, very nice. That's awesome.
Like always, we got some work to do. We still have some commentary to do. And we still have, we just kind of like we always do. We pack up the special features as much as we can. I might do a new episode of the Ghost Files for it, like I did for the Ghost Cut Blu-ray. And then the editorial team still needs to do a little bit of work since,
Okay.
well, closing the Indiegogo campaign at the end of the month, March 31st. That's also when backers, because, hey, we're all human here. A few people did not make the list that should have been on the list.
Yeah.
Spellings, things like that. So if there's any corrections, we're asking people to get those in by the end of the month, March 31st. Then we're going to lock credits. We're going to, fix everything that we needed to fix, kind of polish the thing off for the Blu-ray, and then start getting that process going while we finish up behind the scenes and that stuff. And so we're hopefully getting out, late spring, early summer. And then we'll look forward toward, doing the final cut, which will be, all the films cut together in one fluent movie. And, we're going to work on that over the summer. We're going to be launching a new Kickstarter for that. We're going to be moving from Indiegogo to Kickstarter, which I think is going to be very beneficial for everybody involved. We had backers that had trouble with Indiegogo, just sort of some of the, trouble making payments, trouble, kind of keeping up with stuff. So, and Kickstarter has a really good filmmaking, community, and a very, very well supported one. So we want to take all of our backers over there. I mean, it's the same thing. And Kickstarter's, I think, even more known than Indiegogo in a lot of ways. So we're hoping that turns into a nice sort of opportunity for us to really celebrate what we've done over the last 7 years, and go and do some post-production on that, and then have some fun, like really kind of tweaking it out, and then getting people a final Blu-ray that really commemorates everything we've done, puts everything together, and then lots of original projects coming up. And, we'll be looking forward to getting to that stuff probably sometime next year with our new projects.
That's exciting. That's a lot.
Yeah, that sounds busy. Very, very busy.
Always busy. Yeah.
We haven't even gotten into Q&A questions, and I'm like, damn, like, did he answer all the questions?
Being busy as that all sounds, does that mean that you're not taking screenplays? Because I've got this amazing Ghostface versus Leatherface screen. I mean, if you want to read it,
I'm like up to my eyeballs in projects that we need to get off the ground. There's stuff that we've announced, like Ghost Chicken, which is an animated project. We still have Ghost in the Fog, which is another Never Hike Alone thing, but animated. And that's, both Ghost Chicken and Ghost in the Fog are animated. We really want to get our animation division up and running. And we're working with Mako Animation out of Mexico City, who works with us. Very, very cool group. Juan Rivera and his team down there are amazing. We have some live action projects that we're working on, collaborating with, like we always do, teams all over the country that we have good filmmaking relationships with, and thinking about what we can do. I recently returned to where I'm from, the South Coast Massachusetts area, where the film community is growing here as well. So trying to, do my due diligence to meet people, and then we're going to, run some projects out of this area and start getting some stuff into film festivals. And, we're looking forward to, 2025, 2026 is looking at those 2 years to be, a big growth for Womp Stomp in a way that, we're able to expand not only what we did with the Friday the 13th series, but, the original stuff as well, and really take that next step as far as like being a company. And who knows, there's always opportunities to do fan films down the road. And we can definitely talk about some of the ideas of where maybe, the other things Never Hike Alone that I would like to go into if I ever had the chance. But for now, I think it is time to sort of like, hey, let's tell some other stories, because I got some good ones that I think people are really going to like. And we just kind of take it from there. But that's basically the gist of where I'm at right now, I guess you could say.
Oh man, they're really
very busy schedule.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like it makes me like I'm gonna start looking at my schedule. Like I don't think I do half that.
Like, he's doing I mean, honestly, Danny, it sounds like you could be doing a whole lot more.
I could be doing way more right now. But listen, again, we cannot wait to just pick your brains tonight and just get to know you and as a person, but also the stuff that you got coming up, and also talk about these awesome fan films, right? Because I mentioned this in the background, like in the backstage, like we were in a time where there was this whole legal thing going on, and we had no Friday the 13th films out. Like there's talks about a show and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden we get this Never Hike Alone film, and it's a fan film, and some people didn't know. So I'm telling you, like it's mind blowing from watching it the first time, and even just after watching Never Hike in the Snow, Never Hike Alone in the Snow, and then also Never Hike Alone 2, and seeing how they all just mesh well and connect so well. So we're definitely going to get into that. Our chat's here, so our chat's our third host, so they're here to support, and we appreciate them for being here. So we want to show them some love. We got our PR department, Mr. The Real Bill, in the house. What's going on, buddy? Welcome.
And to answer that question, Bill, we generally touch tips every time we see each other.
We got our homie Raven's Eye Studios. What's going on, dude? We got everybody's favorite dad, Mr. Cobra Dad, in the house. We got Allie Girl. Welcome. Allie Girl. We have One Stop Films in the house. Welcome.
Yeah, I figured I'd jump in, drop some.
There you go. We got Damaris Ortiz. Welcome. What's going on? Welcome to the show. We have only Vico Sands. What's up?
Vico.
We got everybody's favorite Green Ranger, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Green Geek 88. What's going on, buddy? Nice to see you. KJ Smith in the house. We got the Chain Brothers in the house. What's going on? Thank you guys for showing up. We got our Theo, Mr. Chubsy Wubsy, and Mrs. Wubsy. Much love to you guys. And our aunt. Always love them. Our homie Diggs Figs. What's going on? And Jack of all trades, Mr. Stash himself, Mr. Jedi Jack. What's going on? Welcome, everybody. Thank you, everybody that's watching. And please, thank you for coming and showing us some support as always. But also, thank you for coming to show us some love to our special guests on tonight. So, Vince, we usually like to start the show with a discussion question to kind of get things going. And seeing as this is a Friday the 13th film episode and everything that's great about Friday the 13th.
I wore my nicest sleeveless shirt for this episode.
You did. You sure enough did. So I have a very appropriate question for tonight to ask for us, just to kind of get us going here. So the question for tonight for all of us is, and we always talk about the movies we did like, right? But we never really discussed the movies that really didn't like. It didn't mesh with us as well, because there are films like some of the movies in the series have been a little bit like they're not that great, right? You remember the good ones. So tonight's question is, what is the least favorite Friday the 13th film? So what is the one that really just it's just the one? Yeah,
for me, the one that disappointed me the most was the remake. I went into that with such high expectations that they had all those other films to learn from, and they were like, hey, so now they can finally build a continuity that makes sense, and like really just kind of be like, okay, give me an answer about what happened to Jason, give me an answer about that, like just really set it up and make it work. And I feel like it was more about like, no, we're not going to worry about any story, we're just going right back to like boobs and blood. And it was like, it was so over the top. But in 2009, in such a, like, if it's the 80s and it's like, it feels like it's, a rip on like the 80s classic John Hughes movies. And that's sort of what Friday the 13th used to be. It used to be like a John Hughes movie and with murder in it, like kids having adventure over a summer weekend and then getting brutally murdered, whatever their little things. And, you have those stories. And I just felt that like 2009 it took all the things about Friday the 13th that were like cute in the 80s, but don't really carry over to modern audiences, and really focused on like making that fun and like trying to make that the forefront of the movie, versus like, no, let's actually like figure out what we're doing, because we're probably gonna have to make 2 or 3 or 4 more of these in the next 5 years because we only have the thing, and really look it forward ahead. And I just felt like they wrote this insular movie that couldn't go anywhere, that didn't make any sense, that didn't answer any of the questions I had been asking. And it just felt like I keep having this repeat sort of experience with like Jason Goes to Hell, I think would be like another one on that list that was like, oh my God, they're going to wrap up the whole story and explain the whole thing. And the way that they chose to do it was so far off base of what I either expected or ever wanted to see, just ruined it for me. But as much as those things irked me as a fan, those were the things that made me want to explore during doing Never Hike Alone, because I got so sick of sort of trying to explain to people what I saw wrong with the film. Because if you watch Never Hike Alone and you watch 2009, some of the events that happen are very similar. Just walking into a camp, exploring it. But if you look at the way that we explored it and what we find in our movie versus like what they showed. And that's what I was saying. Like, look how much like more interesting it is if you're actually looking at the old crime scenes and you're going at things that actually happened that we saw in the movies versus this bed that says Jason on it versus
I remember that. That was like
I thought, you know what I mean? Like, you know, his mother's head's in the, like, there were just certain choices that felt like they were very superficial versus like, no, build a world. And with Never Hike Alone, I think what fans pick up on is that as a fan, I wanted to be like, no, if you trace the events of Jason, or you trace the events of like what happened in this room, there's a story about what's going on here. And it would hold true with how Jason would probably act in real life. And, you know, building story into it that really worked. And they probably did that in 2009, but we focused on the story side of it. And we didn't let any of the other distractions come in. We just let it be let's just tell a story about Jason. Enough with the, you know, all of this business of like, that's just like, that doesn't add anything to the movie anymore. You know what I mean? Like, since the advent of the internet, we don't need 80s movies to show us boobs anymore. Like that purpose has totally lost itself in cinema. And unless you have a good reason to put somebody nude on camera, it's like, now it's just sort of like, oh, you're just trying to get extra views, but Friday the 13th doesn't need it. And if you focus on the horror, it gets scarier. Or if you're gonna do it in a way that like feels like it doesn't feel like gratuitous. You know what I mean? It feels natural. It sets into the setting, and it was. I think that's what it was. It was like that wasn't a movie I would want to bring a date to. I was married at the time, and I brought my wife, and I was sort of embarrassed, being like, "Oh, I didn't realize that this was going to be like 30 minutes of this like girl bouncing up on this guy."
That was like one of like the most like
that's about the part of the time in the film that my DVD started getting wore out. I think
of course.
So the you know, so there's that, and then I kind of liked and the thing was I really liked the concepts. There were just certain things about it that I was just like, you had the opportunity to reintroduce the mask, and you did it in such a passive way. You did all that work on Jason's face, you never showed the face. You know, you went all this, you know, you went at this effort to tell us that he's human, and then at the end he does something supernatural, and so you just left all the lines blurred, and you didn't even try to explain anything, which I thought was a cop out. And I felt like I walked out being like, I didn't learn anything new that I didn't know about Jason that I didn't already know. You know, I want to go into these films and I want to learn something about him in a character sense that I'm like, oh wow. And like him wanting to keep a hostage because it looked like his mom was sort of like, it was weird. It was lukewarm for me. Like, it just didn't, you know what I mean? It was a big swing. And I think that's why the film doesn't. And I always harbored resentment for that film because I always felt like it was sort of the stumbling block that started this drought. It didn't land like, it landed okay, but it needed to land gangbusters, and it needed to warrant itself a sequel right away. And it stumbled through that, and then stumbled right into, you know, as it fell on its face doing that, it fell right into a lawsuit, and that extended that, you know, thing by another 6-7 years. And, you know, as you brought up before, it was, you know, it sucks for fans. And I was a fan who was anticipating a new movie coming out. But as far as the world of Never Hike Alone, it really helped us out because it, you know, opened up that door. Like Friday the 13th, 2017 was supposed to have a Friday the 13th movie in it. And it went away because of Rings. And then Never Hike Alone took that spot, and no one saw us coming. Everybody expected it to be a fan film. They expected the normal sort of like, oh, like nice job, but you guys only have so much equipment and you can only do so much. It's a really great effort, but like, I want to watch a movie tonight, not someone's sort of like home video. And then that, you know, and that
on people's fan films or their home, you know, their homemade films. But what I've seen of other fan films and homemade films, they're not this.
No, absolutely.
Well, I mean, but I mean, I think there's a lot of great effort out there. I think that a lot of great effort was being made, and those fan films inspired me. You know what I mean? Like, I really liked what they were doing, and I just and the whole time I was thinking was like, if someone could just crack that code between being able to do a fan film and having a good like a lot of those old films, they don't have the greatest cinematography because they don't have the equipment, because the equipment wasn't really available yet. But they have great costumes, they have great ideas. There's things that could work, but let's take advantage and make it look as cinematic as possible. And
Yeah.
it was, that was the pursuit of making that film. And that's why how it all sort of came together was trying to do that.
And that's kind of one of the things that definitely we could respect from like filmmakers is like you were looking at it more in like a film view, not just like what you were expecting like from like the other movies. One of the things that I liked about that movie is just like explaining, like I love how they showed, to me it was, I loved how they showed how he learned how to survive in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
Like I love those aspects of like him like building tunnels and kind of explaining a little how he could end up in one spot and another.
Yeah, but
just
see that piggybacks off of Vinny's statement. Is they were going out of their way to not make him supernatural, giving him the underground tunnels, so he gets from A to B, and he's got the bells. They went out of their way to make it so he's not supernatural. By giving us that, which I hated it. I hated the tunnels. I thought that was stupid.
I wasn't a big fan of the tunnels either. I thought that was it's one thing if there were a few tunnels, but that was crazy.
I mean, it explains why he's so buff, carrying them fucking timbers around. And
I know, like
tunnels.
Like, how is that? How is the camp still standing? How does it not collapse?
Those were the same fucking tunnels from like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Remember when he was like,
is that Jason Voorhees or Bugs Bunny? Like, what is going on?
They definitely didn't do themselves any favors by adding the tunnels. I thought that. Personally, the first time I watched it and I saw the tunnels, my first instinct or my first thought was, "This is stupid." Like I would rather have it in my head that he's teleporting. That I would rather he had like some sort of like pad on his arm that got him from one place to the other. I didn't want to actually see the tunnels. I didn't need to know how he got from A to B. I just needed to be afraid of him getting from A.
Well, this is a perfect segue on Worthy. So, what is your least favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Hands down, one you say? 4 words. Jason Goes to Hell. I thought that was the dumbest fucking movie. The beginning started off real bad. The special SWAT team taking down Jason, and then he gets blown up to a bunch of little pieces, and then he possesses the bodies of others. I thought that was stupid from Jump Street. And it just didn't get any better. There's like a special dagger and shit. Like I didn't enjoy that movie at all. The only good thing was like the tease of Freddy versus Jason, but then they failed to capitalize on that as well.
Well, I mean, it was a nice I always, every time I think of that movie, and I'm gonna go into mine too now, and mine is the same one. Mine, I wasn't a fan of Jason Goes to Hell neither. I think the only reason why was because I remember growing up and I used to enjoy Friday the 13th, The New Beginning, which was it's their kind of version of Season of the Witch, right? It's like Season of the Witch. It's not Jason, it's an imposter Jason. For those who haven't watched it, you have been under
the imposter. Yeah, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Movie that came out ages ago.
There's a pasta Jason.
Right. So like that movie got so much crap. Like people it has there are fans. I am a fan of that movie. I loved it. I actually loved the characters in that movie. Like that.
You also like Season of the Witch. We're not surprised.
Season of the Witch is great. Like I had the honor of watching Tom Atkins. I got to meet him in the week. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So that to watch Jason Goes to Hell. And I mean, again, it was just kind of like they made Jason an entity, right? So here are these people possessed by Jason. I'm like, it's Jason.
We came here to see Jason.
I want to see Jason. I didn't want to see this shit. But then I'm like,
I don't want to see some guy getting possessed. The first 15 minutes.
But then we have Roy Burns. We got Roy Burns, right? I mean, some things didn't make sense, but you have Roy Burns who was like dressed like Jason, killer like Jason. I'm like, fuck it, it's Jason. Who cares? He is wearing a hockey mask, it's Jason. So
but they also had those awesome, they had the awesome flashbacks too, like in the and that was very like inspiring to Never Hike Alone. Were those sort of moments where Tommy would see Jason, and that's Tom Morga in the Part 4 costume. It was like that's some of the best shots and moment, like when he's standing in the room with the double-bladed axe in the background. I lost my mind when I first saw that. I was like, Jason can just appear anywhere. This is crazy.
Right. Yeah. No, it was definitely a good movie. And then I love that. And again, the ending was kind of like it left you with like a kind of a theory, like, is Tommy Jason now? Is he the new Jason? Did he go psychotic? And like, and also too, it had memorable characters like the old Ethel, right? That was her name. Yep. The lady that was like, she's like, "Don't touch me, Sheriff. I'm warning you. I got a bomb on me." I'm like, she was fucking awesome. She was amazing. Like, I wanted more of her. The characters don't last in these Friday the 13th movies, but she was freaking awesome. Like the comedy aspect of it was great. And like everything was like, and then to have Jason Goes to Hell and kind of have something similar, not having Jason, but it's all these random people who have just like turned into Jason. It's like, I mean, the gore was good, the kills are good, but I'm like, it's not Jason. Like, I don't want to see a hockey mask. I don't care. Like, give me somebody with a hockey mask. And then we got it at the end, and then the whole teaser with Freddy and all that. So that's definitely I agree with you on Worthy. I wasn't a big fan. So we got a couple of answers from our chat because they're here. So our PR department says New Beginning. He says the one he just mentioned. He said he's not a fan of that one. So okay.
Well, we pay him for his legal abilities.
Cobra Dad says he loved the remake. We have and then our PR department says I like the Hunter Trapper Jason. Okay. And then
listen. So I just want to say for the negatives about the remake, the good thing is as somebody who hunts and spends a lot of time out in the woods, somebody like that has that mentality and has those abilities is a very frightening person. Like, it didn't need to be Jason. They could have done a different movie with somebody who was Hunter Trapper, scary, gonna play a banjo if you want to. You're like, whatever. Like
you could have been the Syracuse axe killer on Worthy, and I would have watched that.
Listen, Syracuse is an hour away. I live in the woods, homie.
Wade Create says Jason X is where I kind of checked out. Algirl says Season of Witch was great. Yes, it definitely was. It says Mikey V says Roy Jason's second favorite Jason. Okay, yeah, okay. That's all right. And then Jason had his biggest kill in X. Okay. All right.
Listen, I loved
fantastic.
I love Jason X.
Every Friday does have something good in it. Like, that's what's sort of like the great thing about Friday the 13th is no matter how bad it gets, it always has something that's like worth watching, a moment worth watching. It like collectively, it might not make the most sense as a film. As a franchise, the films don't make a lot of sense going from one to the other, but each one collectively brings something to the table of like a wow moment. Just sort of like, even like Jason Takes Manhattan, which is another one that gets a lot of hate, but him showing up in Times Square is totally worth the wait because that's an awesome moment. That actually happened. That's fucking awesome.
Punching Julius's head right clean off of him. That would
let me say, shout out to Julius. Shout out to Julius for being the bravest human being in the world to go.
And we talked about that. He's like, "What would you do?" You just did. He was like, "What would you do?" You hit him with everything you got. What do you do next? I go, I spit at him and tell him, "That's all you got, bitch."
Such an iconic scene. I love that scene. And another favorite scene of mine is always going to be the scene in the what is it, the boiler where he had the guitar and it's like, and he hits the girl. Mikey V says Jason Takes Manhattan made zero sense because the guy Crystal Lake connected. Okay.
Hey, lakes are connected through rivers.
That's a big damn ship though, getting through a river.
I'd take new Jason movie. He plays Killer Ghoul. Yeah, Mighty right. No Mighty Ducks. Yeah, sure. That would be great, right?
Right.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. I'm telling you, like, they're like after like Jason Goes to Hell, like you could see a lot of like the campy stuff happen. I mean, you got some of the comedy relief, even a little bit in like Part 6, right? But they're not as much. Like afterwards, it's like it got real. I mean, a lot of horror movies, like even the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, kind of got like real campy and like real silly, and and stuff like that. So a lot of like again, Jason Goes to Hell is like that film that I was just like, I was like, why did part 5? Yeah, why did part 5 get hit? Like it was no, absolutely. So thank you for participating, and that was awesome. So again, listen, we're here, Vince. We're here to meet you and get to know you. So we always like not to assume that everybody knows your work or knows who you are. So we always like to tell our guests to just basically reintroduce yourself. Let us know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. All right. So, my name's Vicente DiSanti. I'm a film director from, originally from Massachusetts. I spent about 16 years in Los Angeles working in the film and television industry. Okay. I spent about 8 years in animation, working for multiple, feature animated films. I left feature animation to make Never Hike Alone in 2016 and 2017. We debuted Never Hike Alone, which is a Friday the 13th fan film, which is streaming on YouTube for free right now at the Womp Stomp Films YouTube channel, along with the films that came after it and got spawned by it, which were Never Hike in the Snow, Never Hike Alone 2. We also have a music video called Disappear. We also have another sort of we ended up releasing it. It's not officially canon, but it's a fun thing. It's called The Lost Tapes, which is actually a vertical video account of like people running into Ghost Jason in the middle of the night at the camp that we found. And so, since then I've been working in live action and, as an assistant director for independent feature films. I work for the AD department for, union gigs, things like that. I've been balancing, my life back and forth between doing this Never Hike Alone business and working in film and television. I've worked for, American Horror Story, The Rookie for ABC. I was on a show called Chad, which is on the Tubi channel now. Actually, it was supposed to be on PBS. It almost became one of those Wile E. Coyote like tax write-ups, but it ended up finding a home on Roku channel. I found a home on Roku channel. Worked on that. And a lot of stuff like bounced around from different project to project, kind of going back and forth. Aside from the Never Hike Alone projects, Womp Stomp Films made some short films like Pathosis and Imagine. We have another one. We did a series called Last Broadcasts, where we got to use the Sony Venice camera, which was a really fun shoot when that first came out. I was actually in a film called 13 Fanboy, which was directed by Deborah Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 5. She plays Tina. She's a girl who gets the shears through the eyes. I don't know if I'll spoil it to you, but it's on Showtime. I'm in the film. I play myself. And it's a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of stunt work in that movie. So I worked on seasons 1 and 2 of The Rookie, Allie.
Nice.
So I got to know Nathan Fillion and that whole crew. Richard T. Jones is like my guy. Like we had a lot of fun.
Awesome.
That whole cast was a lot of fun to work with. Eric, Alyssa, and that's when Titus was on the show. Melissa was amazing. It's just a fun, and that's where I really kind of cut my teeth as far as in my career when I was looking at doing the Never Hike Alone stuff, and I wanted to become a film director, and that's ultimately where I want to get to. I've been, and I'm doing in my paces, and I'm well on my way, but it's something that takes a lifetime to do. Like, unlike most jobs in this world, there's no real sort of path to being a director. There's no like, oh, you do this, and then you do this. The only way you can be a director is to direct, and you have to create opportunities for yourself to direct. And I have worked alongside directors, and I've worked under directors, and I've worked for productions. And taking that step to wanting to direct something, the more I'm around people who do it very well, the better I can do it, because I can observe and sort of kind of go, story. Worked in story departments, editorial, and really learned how films were made. Going from, like for the first movie I worked on was called Freebirds, and it started out as just a log line, which was two turkeys discover a time machine, go back to the first Thanksgiving, and take turkey off the menu. And that was the idea. Wow. And I got to sit in a room as that idea grew into a script. Those scripts grew into storyboards. Those storyboards went into editorial. That editorial became animation, and then a film came out 2.5 years later. after, you know, going around that film a million times and having discussions about how to turkey steal time machines and, you know, but watching very, very smart people discuss things that are very, very silly, but ultimately doing it for the behest of people's entertainment. And I learned a lot doing that. I did a few of those movies that way and worked my way up and learned how to manage and understand how to build a crew to build a film. And that's how I kind of did Never Hike Alone. I wanted to do that for live action. So I made the switch and sort of did the same thing, found people who could help me out, built a really good crew. You know, that first team was Chris Thellis, Kyle Klein, Andrew Lady, obviously, who plays Kyle MacLeod in the first movie, Jonathan Cabrera, JD Martz. And, you know, that was really sort of like the core crew that sort of going up to making the film. And in the process of doing sort of like the preliminary work of like doing tests and, you know, shooting new costumes and doing all that stuff, we ended up finding an abandoned camp. And that's really and, you know, if you haven't seen Never Hike Alone, I would say the biggest appeal of it is the fact that we actually found an abandoned camp and we shot at an abandoned camp. And we spent an entire summer set decking the entire thing, building rooms, building walls, building hallways, you know, building Jason's lair. Like with 2009, like I didn't like that he lived underground. I wanted to see him living somewhere in the camp. So we created a version of that was like he lives in an attic, which makes much more sense to me. And he keeps his mother's head right where he sleeps. Like, there's no way he would leave it in a bathroom somewhere on some random cabin. Like he would.
I mean, if I was going to leave my mom's head somewhere, it would be right next to where I sleep too, so I can look at it every night.
Yeah,
personally, it's a personal choice, I guess.
That's
so. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that in a nutshell, that's I guess that would be the Never Hike Alone story. Is that, you know, basically I've always, you know, even as a kid, I grew up a big Friday the 13th fan. I grew up on a lake. I always wanted to work on a Friday the 13th movie. And
that's awesome.
Because the films weren't happening, because they kept going, you know, I was working in my career and I was moving my way up and I was doing the things I wanted to do, but there was no opportunity to go work for a Friday the 13th. And so I created my own opportunity and it ended up catching, you know, obviously it caught the wind of Friday the 13th fans around the world, and they've been supporting us ever since. And we were a project that started with not being able to get our first Kickstarter funded to, you know, Never Hike Alone 2 raised it, you know, crossed over $330,000 on Indiegogo. So it's, you know, it was a long time coming, but it was a lot of hard work. And now, you know, we get to kind of show Friday the 13th fans what I've always wanted to see. And in the meantime, keep some people entertained while we wait for the new stuff to come. And it looks like it's coming pretty soon. So I'm pretty excited about that.
And that's one of the things that I remember watching, like when before the movie starts, there's this text that explains that this is a fan film, the love for the franchise. And you see that in the film. You see a lot of like callbacks from like the original, but also too, like I got a lot of vibes from a lot of things. So even just saying Jason, like I got a lot of CJ Graham vibes, but also Kane Hodder brutality. I got those vibes, a lot of it. And also too, like cameos, like there were a lot of cameos in like Never Hike Alone 2 and even the first one, which we're going to definitely talk about. Now, one of the questions that I was going to ask you, because I know you mentioned it a little bit about animation, like what like certain like films like what certain animations did you work on, like titles, like if you could elaborate on that a little.
Yeah, no, I worked the first one, like I said, was Freebirds that came out in like 2011 or 2012. Owen Wilson and Woody Harrelson were in that one. The next film I worked on was another one called Rock Dog, which starred Luke Wilson, J.K. Simmons, Sam Elliott, Eddie Izzard. Great cast. And you know, I worked on that.
I love Eddie Izzard.
Yeah, that was an amazing production. We had a fun time. We worked in Venice, California. We worked out of a live work loft, very small team. We took the concept of sort of the big studio mentality that was kind of going around, was like build these giant, like go get a big office building downtown, fill it with artists, and you know, the overhead is ridiculous. And it was like, well, no, if we just whittle it down to a few handful of people, we could still do it in the same amount of time, because if you hire the right people, they work faster anyway. And if you just pay their wages and you're not paying the overhead, then all of a sudden, like, you know, your budgets end up going into the movie versus a bunch of things that don't really help your film. so that was a very unique experience. And in fact, one time Lee Winnell from Saw and Upgrade and in The Invisible Man, he was actually working on an animated film at the time, and he stopped in our offices because he heard what we were doing, and they walked around the office, and we had a chance to be. He was like, "This is brilliant." He's like, "It's just you. It's just, it was the director." It was me, which was basically most of the production team. We had producers who were like in and out, but on the day to day, I was running the production of the film. And then we had storyboard artists and editorial and some art people. And all we were doing was generating what we needed, the blueprint for the movie. And then that blueprint ended up getting sold, made, by an effects company. I think that one came out in 2014 or 15. It was sort of and these are smaller independent films that you can find streaming now, but they didn't make big hits. It wasn't a Pixar, it wasn't a DreamWorks or an Illumination, so it didn't have the big marketing budgets behind it. It kind of went under the radar, but I think it found its audiences and people really like it. The third one I worked on was called QQ Speed. It never released. We shut down the production of it after just sort of like the creative couldn't get the creative under control. They kept wanting changes. It was more of a client vendor type relationship. Yeah. And so when they were like, no, we want to change it again, we were like, well, that's going to be more money. Yeah. And so then, but in the larger spectrum, I worked for that company. There was another film called Duck Duck Goose that I actually worked on there as well while I was there. So that came out, I believe, in 2018. But I had left the animation world by then. And I really have to say that I had this experience of you pour your heart and soul into the work that you do. You show up every day, you want it to do well. Nobody works on a movie and wants it to bomb. Nobody, works on a movie and wants it to sort of go unnoticed. And I always felt that there were moments where I can think back in the productions where this is where it happened. This is sort of where we were going towards that place where we might have made a hit, and all of a sudden something changed, and well, at least we got the movie done, and we're proud of it, and we worked hard to do it done, and it didn't really have the reception that we wanted it to have at first, but again, it found its audience as a thing. Never Hike Alone, oddly enough, was the first time in my career that something that I was a part of releasing something, and the immediate reaction was, holy shit. You know what I mean? And that was, I gotta say that was super rewarding, is making that transition. So I got into film to work in live action, but I got a job in animation because that's what the opportunity was. And either do that or keep staying in commercials and working in a vault and labeling tapes all day. And I really learned a lot through animation. In fact, I learned a lot. People really underestimate that medium as something that's for even Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about how it's for kids at the Oscars, and really animation is for anybody. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you're of our generation, we still watch cartoons, we still watch animation. I watch if Max comes out with an animated Batman tale, I'm right there to watch it. I'll just leave animated Batman on in the background because it's there. Adults watch animation too, and animated films cover some of the most adult themes that the adults get it because there's something in it for them, and then the children get it because they'll watch almost anything that's animated. But there's also, I love to see animation delve into horror and doing all those things. And I think because at the time I was in animation, there was no drive or want to do that. Everybody just wanted to be Pixar. Everybody just wanted to follow that Pixar story model and make Pixar films without Pixar's budget and compete with Pixar, when really they should have been finding and that's what I discovered through Never Hike Alone. It's actually, if you want success, find a niche audience and serve that niche audience and work at their budget level. Whatever their return is going to be. If you can, if we're only going to get $50,000 for Never Hike Alone, well, let's do a film that for $50,000 is going to get that many people excited about it, and it's going to get more people excited about it than you would think. And so, that's sort of what was one of the biggest lessons coming out of that, that world. But animation was just really cool. It's just a cool process. It was cool to learn how it's made. And I really enjoyed my time in it. I met a lot of really smart amazing people, and I wouldn't be who I am as a filmmaker without that experience. And so I always saw that as like, I got a degree in filmmaking, but that was like going in for your master's and really studying under, the people who did it at the highest level and who do it at the highest level, and walking away from that experience, sort of, that's what set me up. And I would say that, like, when people notice the difference between what we do with the Never Hike Alone and other things, it's like, I can attribute it to that experience.
Yeah.
If I didn't go through that experience, my stuff would probably look like everything else. But because I went through that experience, it taught me a lot about, what it takes to make something cinematic and make it feel like a real movie versus just filming stuff that's happening because it's cool to see it on.
Absolutely.
Now,
and
speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead. No, you're fine. Go right ahead.
So, speaking of like the critic's eye and people expecting certain things, one of the things we kind of touched on earlier was the fact that it's a fan film and the expectations of people seeing it as a fan film. How vindicating was it for your first Never Hike Alone to come out, and for you to be like, it's a fan film, motherfucker, but guess what? It is top quality, real film. Was it nice to be able to shut down? Because I'm assuming there must have been some negativity.
And I honestly, there still is, but I gotta say that, like, I just knew that if I could, all I wanted to do was give Friday the 13th fans something to cheer about. I wanted to finally have an experience for people to have like a Friday the 13th film that they watched it and you didn't have that mixed reaction experience that you had with 2009. You didn't have that like vomitary reaction that you have with Jason Goes to Hell. You didn't have that dismissive reaction with Jason X. You didn't have that, like, I guess that's Jason sort of with Freddy versus Jason, that finally it was like, no, it's back to this is the Jason I remember type thing.
Yeah.
I wanted people to have that experience more than anything. And I wanted to subvert expectations of what a fan film could be. And there was an article that came out, Birth Movies Death, that was written by Meredith Borders. It was one of the first reviews that were released. And, she says it right in her thing. She says, I say fan film and I know you cringe, but I'm telling you, Never Hike Alone not only got into not only one of the best genre festivals, but it deserves to be here. And I got to say that me, doubting myself, knowing that people were expecting nothing, to know that we thought we had something special, but we just couldn't get people to believe in it. To just be able to be like, instead of having to tell people, like, again, it's those years of trying to just explain to people what it was. It felt so good just to show everybody.
Yeah.
That's what felt good, to be like, I'm just going to stop talking about it because I can go on forever about this stuff. Let me just show you what's in my brain. And that's what felt good. And even though we hit a bunch of challenges, it was like, you have a vision in your head and you sort of get it close, but you can never really get it to where how it is in your head, but it was close enough. And then just to see that reaction from people, I'll never forget that. Like, I'll never forget sitting in that hotel room in Telluride after the screening, looking at the reviews and just being sort of like, I was beside myself. I was like, I can't believe it.
Awesome.
Like,
yeah.
It's really good. And I was on, so flash forward a few years later, I was working on that show, Chad. And the director that we had was Todd Strauss-Clausen, who did Final Girls. And one day I happened to have my Never Hike Alone t-shirt on because they're comfy. Like, please, like, it's comfy, right? It's actually a nice shirt. Like, it's nice to wear. Like,
I don't have one.
We'll have to get you one, but it's
wait, let me give them the pip. Let me
I always order, like, I always get samples so I know what people are going to wear, because I want people to actually have a shirt that they're going to wear. I hate when people get Gildan shirts and they're like really scratchy and you can't, like, you wear them once and then they just like rake your back,
or the embroidery shit falls off like the first time you wash it and dry it, it's all peeled off, and it looks like it says Ver Ike Clone.
So yeah, and so I actually enjoy wearing Never Hike Alone gear because I buy nice shirts for people, and then it's better than stuff I buy in stores. So I ended up wearing my stuff a lot. So it's a long segue here, but anyway, he was directing two of the episodes, actually the last two episodes of the season, and I was walking to lunch, and we were sort of walking side by side, and I forgot that I had it on, and he just goes, "Oh, Never Hike Alone, huh?" He's like, "That's a cool movie." And I was like, "Oh, you seen it?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I heard about that movie. It's pretty cool." I was like, "Oh, I made it." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." And in fact, awesome. I had met Todd at the Stanley Film Festival in 2015, nice. When Final Girls got released. And that film festival was, I want to say, the shot in the arm for me. To be like, I was there, I saw kids my age, not kids, early 30s at the time. I saw people my age there with movies that they had made with their friends. You know what I mean? Like, they totally weren't professional filmmakers. They were just friends who hung out and made films. And I was like, I need to go get me friends like that.
Yeah.
Because I want to be at a festival like this, and I don't want to be sitting in the audience. I want to be up on the stage. I want to be here making movies. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I want to do. What's stopping me from doing this? And so it was kind of cool to bump into him because, like, I went and I watched him show his film to the world. I think that was like maybe the second or third time it had ever screened. And and then bumping into him many years later, and he's like a regular director on several TV shows. And, he had done Harold and Kumar as well. And like, he's always been, I think, a pretty fairly successful working director. But to come back to that and say that since the last time I saw him, I've come this far. I've created this thing that even people within the industry, like when I was on American Horror Story, I was out there with I had a Jason shirt on, and somebody mentioned Never Hike Alone, and I mentioned that was me again, and we all got into a big talk about it because everyone in the effects community, everybody in the effects community of Hollywood, like the biggest effects, they all know what Never Hike Alone, which is really cool. And so it's just, again, it's to see it like permeate and have an effect on people, because for me it's tough to see the forest through the trees a lot because everything's online, and most of the people that engage with it aren't really vocal about it. Like they do it, they just have their own private moment with it. It's not like when I get to see people experience it in the theater, and then you get that experience where you have people talk about it, and they have that thing. I don't think anything will ever match that feeling. I think when we had our first cameo in the first Never Hike Alone, and nobody saw that coming. And it kind of blew people's minds. And I think that, we did our job to get people hooked to last 48 minutes into that movie. And then around that time, when we make our big reveal, like, we blew people's minds.
No, you did.
Like, but that's the feeling that Friday the 13th fans deserve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the feeling that they should get after they watch an episode. And that's the feeling I had when I watched part 6 as a kid. I remember like being so elated by that movie, wanting to watch it all the time. Like, I wanted to have that feeling again. I didn't know if I could do that. And like, you think about it, like, that's what I want. And then you go out to try to do it. It's a hard task. It's not easy. And then you got to think, like, am I the person who's going to fucking do this? Like, like who do I think I am? And I'm doing it with like one guy, and it's not like massive kills. What have I done? You know what I mean? Like, if someone had told me, if I wasn't doing Never Hike Alone and someone else told me the formula, what they were going to do, I'm like, you're crazy. You're doing all the things you shouldn't do on a Friday the 13th. But I think the challenge of it to say, like, you shouldn't do those things made me be like, well, you're right. But here's how it could be good. This is the only way it would work. And like, again, remember, Friday the 13th almost went found footage. So in my head, I thought, well, if you're going to do found footage, do 127 hours of The Martian, like, give yourself an out. Like, get out of the found footage so you can actually shoot a real movie, and not give it. And then because it just gets weird after a while, because it's like people would just drop cameras and run. You know what I mean? Like, no one's running around like, I gotta get the shot. I'm gonna die, but I better get this framed. It's tough sometimes. Although I watched Exit the other day, which was or Exist the other day, which was pretty cool. But anyway, so again, like,
No.
It was amazing. It was. I'll never, like I said, I'll never forget that feeling. And and since then, it's funny because since then, Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Again 2 became sort of like, it was like, oh my God, I got it done.
Yeah.
Like every time it was like, you know what I mean? At that point, it was just like, oh my God, I just got to get it out. And then it's just out there. And I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
They were a lot. They were huge productions. They took a lot of effort. It was, the effort of a lot of people, very talented.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted a little bit.
There we go. I'm back. My
you're back. Yeah, you're back.
But anyway, no, it was, a lot of talented people helped out. Obviously, I couldn't do it without my team, but it was, these last two ones were like, Never Hike Alone was hard, but it only got harder. It only kept getting harder. And a lot of it had to do
once
with
not even like benchmark. You gotta keep it at that same level,
You know what? It wasn't even like, if it was just the filming, I could have done that blindfolded and done backflips and still and done well. It was everything outside, everything in the world going on, COVID, like natural disasters, strikes, trying to live life and just do this in between life. You know what I mean? Like it, for a year, I took time off when I was working at a very high level in the animation industry. I was making good money. I had savings and I was able to coast, and I was able to do the first movie, and I got out of the first movie. I broke even. I got right into a new job and I had money again, and I went. And then I did Never Hike in the Snow. I got myself into a little bit of that financial trouble, and I jumped right into COVID. And then there was no money coming in.
Yeah.
And I've been digging myself out of that hole ever since, sort of type thing. But at the same time, being clever enough to come up with ideas with crowdfunding that keep it alive, keep it funded, that keep it going, so it can sort of sustain itself. And then, me trying to figure out how I'm going to survive, with, in this post-COVID world, when that ended up happening. And then when Never Hike Alone 2 came around, we got delayed a year. We had a natural disaster that delayed filming. We were, our schedule was cut in half. Our budget was doubled. It was, it was insane. It was a lot to fight through. So like what I thought was going to be $180,000 to $200,000 production became a $300,000 production.
Wow.
And all because certain things just slipped out of place. And it didn't have anything to do with, it was nothing that we could control. And it just goes to show you that, like, if you really commit to doing something in life, that it's not going to go perfect. It's going to give you reasons to want to quit every single day. I can't tell you how many things we experienced through the process of doing these films that was like, there were several days where it was like, if we don't fix this problem right now, there is no movie. It all ends tomorrow. And I'm telling you, like, literally, we were like, if it doesn't go right now, we don't have the money to, like, not do this, because so much stuff has been committed. The money's already been committed. There's no give backs. You know what I mean? And then if we have to, like, now we're going to have to pay double to do things. There were moments where if we didn't figure things out and get things fixed, we weren't able to go, that's it. And think about living with that pressure all the time. You know what I mean? So it was, because now there was expectation. The first time I went out there, I was just, I don't want to embarrass myself. And now it's like, now people have an expectation, and I really don't want to embarrass myself. And you have all these things sort of holding you back from being able to throw your best punch in a lot of different ways. And none of it has to do with your ability to execute on set. It has to do with the time that your team needs to do the work. And so that was always like, and that was the struggle. And it was a constant, like, not being able to sleep through the night. You know what I mean? Like waking up every hour on the hour, like, oh my God.
I could only imagine, like, I was like, all this work. No, I know. I remember, like, as an audience member, right? As somebody watching, I remember my first introduction was through I'm subscribed to this show called Dead Meats.
Yeah.
And it's James A. Janice, and he does the horror like run through, and he counts the kill counts, and he does all this thing. And then again, it's a time where you don't have Friday the 13th movies. There are horror movies coming out. A lot of things don't resonate well with you. So here I am. I run into Never Hike Alone. And I'm like, Never Hike Alone. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. But then I see a hockey mask, a familiar mask, without the chevron, the chevrons. And I'm like, wait, was there a movie put together? So like, I watched a little bit of the episode, but then I think the beginning of the episode of Dead Meats, I think it was the cinematography that's what captured me. So then after that, I kind of like cut the episode. I was like, no, I'm not gonna spoil it. I gotta watch this movie. I gotta check this out. So I'm watching the movie on YouTube, and it's like, and again, the cinematography in the beginning was just like, wow, that's just shit's like high quality. Like that shit, like this is a fan film. And like I loved how you made it so modern. Like we talked about like storytelling and you looking at Friday the 13th, 2009, and you're looking at it through a filmmaker's view. And I love how you made it just modern and took this character Kyle, right? And he's a kid who goes on these adventures, and he's in the woods, and he's like basically doing what we kind of do with just filming content and just recording himself. And then he mess around. He goes over this no trespassing sign because it's supposed to be like a nature thing. And he ends up at Crystal Lake, and all these stories about Jason and all these things happen. It's all like myths and stories, scary stories everywhere. But then he runs into a ghost Jason. And it's like, that's one of the things that captured me so much about it. And also too, like having like the crime scenes marked and like paying homage to the beginning, the first movie, right? And explain and like showing those little, like, again, you like a lot of callbacks and stuff. So one of my next questions for you was like, how was it like, and I know this is probably a spoiler, and I have a couple of questions from some of our viewers watching, but one of my questions for you is, how was it like working with like I call them legacy characters, right? Because they've been around. Legacy characters like Thomas Matthews, right? Like Tommy Jarvis from Friday the 13th Part 6. Like, how was that? How did that come about? How were you able to even like, how did you like that conversation? How did that go?
It was a direct result of our first executive producer, Barry J, who was put in touch with Tom through a mutual friend of his as a birthday surprise. He and Tom went to a dinner, were, just talking about life, things like that. Barry had been on the project, I want to say, for 4 or 5 months at that point. Like we had shot half the movie, like we were moving along. We had a good pace. We were going to run our second campaign in a few weeks. Like we were ready to go. We hadn't released the second trailer yet, but we were well on our way. But we needed money to finish the movie. We needed to do it. And, so Barry asks, Tom if he would think about being in Never Hike Alone. And Barry had mentioned to me too, he was like, hey, I'm going to meet Tom. I'm going to ask him if he wants to be in Never Hike Alone. And I'm like, no way he's going to want to be in Never Hike Alone. And so he did ask. And Tom was like, yeah, I'll think about it. I'll meet the guy. I mean, you might as well, at least he's a fan, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we met at a restaurant a couple weeks later, and sat down, and I had to think about like, where would Tom fit in the movie? Like, you know what I mean? Like I had the paramedic scene, like the paramedic scene was in the movie, but it was like, could Tommy be the paramedic? And like,
right.
How does it work? And so I started coming up with storylines for it and all that stuff. And so we sat down and I explained to him, like, here's how I think. Like, I have this scene at the end of the, like, I've already shot half the movie. Like, I can't go back, rewrite the movie and make it about you. Like, I don't have the money for that. Like, we can't go shoot 5 days with you. I would love to, you know what I mean? That'd be a great opportunity. But for now, you come out for one night, we shoot this thing. In the original version, everyone died. You know what I mean? Like everybody died in the original version of Never Hike Alone. The driver died, the ambulance people died, and Kyle died. Yeah, Jason gets in the ambulance at the back of at the end of the movie.
Kyle.
and that crane shot at the end, the drone shot was just supposed to lift up. His blood was flying out of the ambulance.
Oh, wow.
And then tilts up to the sky and it says Never Hike Alone. And so that was supposed to be into the movie. And so Tom was like, I'll do it. No. And so then I showed him the trailer. And when he saw the trailer, like he saw the cinematography and he was like, oh, these guys aren't fucking around. This is actually something. I'm going to go do this. So he said he'd do it, but the only catch is Tommy can't die. And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. Like, if I kill you, the fans are gonna murder me.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Like, it's bad enough I'm making a fan film, and then the fan film.
That's a game changer right there. Well, you know what? But not to interrupt. Like, imagine taking that risk, right? Like, taking that risk. Like, do you think it would have been a different reaction? Like, maybe there are like similar to Halloween, right? Like, there were fans that wanted Laurie Strode to die. They didn't want her to live. Like, I mean, that's kind of one of those things, like one of those risk taking things, like, right, taking your legacy character and just killing them off, and like,
I mean, like, I didn't want Tommy to die, and plus I wanted to tell more story with him. You know what I mean? Like that. So this happened in January of 2017, and the film didn't release until October 17, and I kept this secret. Now I could have gone to, crowdfund and been like, I got Tom Matthews, and like, give me money, I got Tom. You know what I mean? Like, I could have done that game, but in the end, they would have got 2 minutes of him, and that wouldn't have worked in my favor. You know what I mean? Like, and there was something. There was something to, like, being able to hold on to that surprise. It's so much better to hit people with a punch they can't see coming, than to, like, flash it in their face, and then by the time it hits them, they're like, oh wait. You spent 45 minutes with this jackass, like fucking Patrick Swayze looking dude, and like, Tom wasn't even in it till the end, and he's just a paramedic. What how Tommy become a paramedic? All that stuff. But so we did that. And then over the time, and then I got to know Tom, and then the film hit. He came to Telluride. In fact, this Telluride right here. And he just had a fantastic time. You know what I mean? He saw the reaction. He saw the way it was. And I said, Tom, I have an idea. Never Hike Alone 2. And it's a big movie. And I think we could sell it to a studio. And at the time, there was no issue with the lawsuits. You know what I mean? Like, we were building steam. We were getting mentioned. Like, eventually we ended up on Dead Meat, and we really blew up after that. But I was getting a chance to pitch, and so he kind of like went all in, and he was the one who introduced me. Basically, like, meeting him opened up the floodgates to, Never Hike Alone released. I got a message from Doug Tate. He was one of the first people to message me. I got a message from Tom McLaughlin, who I ended up going out and getting coffee with, like, every other month for like a year. I ended up meeting Derek Mears in the process. I met Kane Hodder in the process. Deborah Voorhees. And I just started meeting the alumni left and right. Ari Lehman, I ended up, meeting a bunch. And I don't know, just it being a fan, making a fan film, all of a sudden, like, opened up this secret door. That all of a sudden I stepped through, and I was now meeting everybody, and I was finally over, like, through this threshold of, like, oh my God, like, not that I was one of them, but the fact that it allowed me sort of like this extra sort of easy step to approach. Or they were approaching me because they had seen what I've done and were appreciative of it. And eventually, down the line, we did the Jason Rising project. We got to work with Adrian King and Amy Steele. Obviously we got Vinny Guastafaro involved, and then Doug Tate ended up getting involved as well. But Adam Marcus, director of Jason Goes to Hell, I know we all hate the film, but he's a great guy, and he's very gracious about his experience of, like, what he did. Got to meet Vinny's wife, Cindy Canay, who's in Part 6 as well. Judy Aronson, Tracy Savage, Ron Sloan, who's a good buddy of mine now. So it's really been a lot of fun opening up to that.
That's awesome. Now, you, besides Thomas Matthews, right? You've had you played Ghost Jason. You were Jason, right? To be able to take the mantle, but alongside Brian Forrest, who was also your stunt person that worked alongside with you to just come to the stunts. Now, one of the things that struck me, just kind of doing research as such, Sean S. Cunningham. Like, he did he take part in this film with you? Were you able to meet him? Were you able to meet him at all?
Yeah, I've met Sean multiple times. I met Sean at the Friday the 13th video game
Okay.
launch. I met Sean at his house. I did a
Nice.
director's workshop at Sean's house. Where else did I meet Sean? I feel like I met him one other time. But yeah, I've met Sean, quite a few times. He never remembers who I am. And I don't think he really ever paid attention to Never Hike Alone.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he's dealing with a bunch of stuff now that the lawsuit's over and things are not,
Yeah.
work in his favor. But, I think that my feelings about it are like, I think Sean like got the, my feelings about the lawsuit in general. I was like, I feel like Sean and Victor, yes, they're responsible for getting Friday the 13th going, but what we think of Friday the 13th and what we owe the franchise itself to is the efforts of everybody else who came after them.
Absolutely.
I would say Steve Miner is more of a father to the overall scope and scale of Friday the 13th than they were, because he really defined the Friday the 13th and 2 and 3. And then from there, Joe Zito expanding it, Tom McLaughlin expanded it, John Carl Buechler with his, and then then that's when it started getting to like the really niche things. Like John Carl Buechler became sort of a hit, and Kane Hodder became a hit, and there were certain things that kind of came through for the franchise. But like, so I'm very conflicted as far as like, I'm very thankful for what they did. I think that they, obviously created the original Friday the 13th, which in itself is its own, it's like an amazing success story. It's kind of crazy. And Sean, I think, is a genuine lover of film. I don't think he ever intended to be a horror movie guy. But he just knew that that's where the money was. I think deep down, if he could have made one film in his life that he really would have wanted to make, I think it would have been like Rocket Man. I think he you know what I mean? I think those are the films he wanted. He wanted to make like biopics and like very moving, touching stories. I think that's always where he wanted to go with it. And I think and I know he's working on stuff now, and that's really like seems to be the tone of it too. So I hope he's, I hope he does do all that stuff. And it sucks that like Friday the 13th, like, because I do really feel like he did create Friday the 13th. He's the one who took the variety ad out. He's the one who really put everything together. And if it wasn't for him pushing everybody to do it, it wouldn't have gotten done. If it wasn't for Victor's script, we wouldn't have had story and all that stuff. And that's like that's where it all came down to. But like, it really should have been split. He really should have just cut Victor in earlier on, and he would have avoided this headache. But to each their own. And
no, absolutely. And last well, I don't want to miss out on the questions some of the viewers are watching. So Wade Creates asks, how much do you think animation inspired your views on perspective and setting up shots?
Oh my God, incredibly. My very first job was a storyboard coordinator, and so I worked with several storyboard artists, some who had worked directly under Walt Disney, others who worked on Toy Story 1 and 2, and How to Train Your Dragon, and all that stuff. That was my character in Jason Rising. And every day I watched storyboard artists craft scenes and set up shots, and then we did it in the 3D world. And I was a amateur photographer, you know what I mean? Like, I knew angles, and I studied the 5 C's of cinematography, so I know what I was doing. I could cut in my own right, but there were just certain things that I watched how they were able to create these scenes and how they thought cinematically. And it was watching them do it and then engaging in the conversation back and forth once I was allowed to sort of speak up and say, what would be a cool shot? What would be kind of cool? And also noticing that a lot of the stuff that we see in film, you're usually referencing another film. You're usually watching another film, seeing the sequence, using that as sort of a like almost like lifting it one for one in some places, but then all of a sudden putting your own spin on it because now you're in your own unique environment. But at the end of the day, like, a single is a single, a double shot, there's only so many angles you can get. It's about using your environment to your ability. And that's something that I've always been good with in a camera. And so for me, it really taught me the fundamentals of this is competent filmmaking. This is how to get, I worked under Jimmy Hayward, who was the director of Horton Hears a Who. He ended up directing Freebirds. He stretched a ton of things, but he really knew a lot about building scope and scale and making a movie feel big, even when you didn't have the biggest of budgets. And so I really got to give him a lot of credit for teaching me about that stuff, because when I went out to go shoot drone photography, I'd always think about Jimmy, think about make it big, brother. Like, it's just kind of how he was. He's kind of like a macho man, like in real life. But he was, so it always made me think about that stuff. And so I used to think about, like, what did I want? What are things about films that inspire me? What's the type of cinematography inspires me? And trying to be like, well, if that's what it looks like there, how do I recreate that?
Yeah.
And the pursuit of trying to recreate it is what teaches you your own style.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, one of the next people I was going to mention, because I don't want to spoil too many of the cameos here. So anybody that's watching, definitely go check out Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and definitely check out Never Hike Alone too. But
we're a spoiler friendly.
We're spoiler friendly.
There's anything you
don't
for a
movie that's been out for 7 years. Yeah.
There's anything you don't want spoiled, you should take it up with us before we go.
Yeah, let us know in the questions. Another question, our fellow horror, me and him always talk horror now, and like buddy Mikey VT said, what is Corey Feldman like to work with? Were you able to work with Corey Feldman, or did you reach out to Corey Feldman?
We were two ships passing in the night on 13th Fanboy. He literally wrapped his scenes as I was driving up the mountain to Ruidoso to film my scenes. I know that Andrew Lady got to work with Corey. What I can say is that Corey came with basically his own spin of what he wanted to do. He was ad-libbing and just inventing things as he was going. And Haley and Andrew were just sort of like, we love civics. Oh my God. He just sort of like, I think he was just there to act. You know what I mean? Like, he was there to do a performance, and he expected his co-stars to keep up. And he put, Haley and Drew to the test because he kept them on his toes. He just went with the moment. And honestly, in 13th Fanboy, he's one of the most memorable moments. He's funny. You know what I mean? Like, he's got that voice, and he's like, oh, gee, yeah. And like, it just, I don't know. It just made me fun. He fell dogged it. Yeah.
Now, last to kind of mention Vincent Gustafaro. It's a Sheriff Rick Cologne. Wherever the red dot goes, you bang, guys. Bang. So like that for me was a curveball. Like I knew the Tommy, like when I saw Tommy Jarvis, I was like, oh shit, it's fucking Tommy Jarvis. But like to see that character, right? It's like, and for him to take the man, he's the sheriff now. I'm like, it explains everything, because at first I was like, did this fucking guy die in this movie? But then I had to go back. I was like, no, they never like really showed if he died or anything. But to see him now, I was like getting him back, and like he's a lot older than he was, but he was so fucking entertaining in these films. Like,
oh my God, Vin's a gem. I have a really special relationship with Vinny. Obviously, sharing a name, we're bonded. You don't meet a lot of Vinnies in this world. And so, I don't know, we hit it off right away. Two paisans in a pod. Two paisans in a pot of meatballs, really. He was
you can't go wrong with a pot of meatballs.
No, so he was teaching an acting class at the time. Tom introduced me to him. We'd gotten breakfast, and he signed on to do the Never Hike Alone thing. And I was like, I'm going to keep you a secret. We're not going to do anything yet, and I'll just let you know when the time's right. And I started going to his acting class called the Sport of Acting. And at the time, I wanted to learn more as a director about what I needed to do as a director to give actors what they need on set for the direction, or to just get the moment they need, or what is the communication I need to have without having to have a 10-minute conversation or, spell it out. What's the quick ways to do it? I read, directing actors, but I wanted to see it. You know what I mean? I'm more of a visual learner than I am. I read it on the page. Like, you can do anything with that information, but when you see it actually in practice and you see people reacting to things, you really know what works and what doesn't. And I just get to watch Vinny, and he was just so passionate about acting. In fact, I would encourage anybody who ever comes to our channel. We have the Ghost Files.
Yeah.
I did an interview with Vinny where he talks about his career and how, like,
That's
what
awesome.
acting means to him. And, and I think that, like, he was deputy, Rick Cologne in Friday the 13th Part 6, but he's gone on and done amazing things. He's worked under Michael Mann, under multiple plays for Michael Mann. He's done, seasons of NYPD Blue and CSI and all these other things. He was in what's it called? What's the movie with Shocker? He was in Shocker, Piscatelli or whatever. But he was friggin' awesome. And so to see his passion to come back and be the sheriff, he was just like a rad dude. And I really just enjoyed like having him around. And he stuck with it, through the whole thing. Like he's getting up there in age, but he's still getting out there. He's still kicking ass, it wasn't my original intention to kill Rick. In the original version of Never Hike Alone, Rick lived. But we had to lose some scenes and we had to lose some cops. And so I was like, Rick, I kind of need you to fall on the sword like then. Like I need Rick to go out with a bang. And he was like, and so he was, I think people mixed at first, but he came around to it and he had so much fun. Like, in fact, so I ended up sending him the head that we crushed on set with him. And now he drives around with it in his front seat.
What an awesome dude. I would have done the same.
He told me he brought it to his dentist appointment. He brings it everywhere. So it's definitely a lot of fun. And he's, like I said, he's a legend. And so, to be able to sit down again, like just like with the people in animation, be able to sit and absorb and listen and really pick up on things was a really big lesson for me. So I very much enjoyed working with Vin. I talk to him every now and then, catch up with him still. I catch up with everybody. It's nice. It's like we have our own little like kinship from doing these films. And I went from a fan to a coworker to a to a friend.
That's awesome.
And it's a really cool experience as a fan to, I grew up idolizing these people. I grew up really just sort of every weekend it was filled with somebody from Friday the 13th. And now I see them as sort of, I get to see them as peers. And that's a really good feeling. And that's a feeling I always wanted. I always wanted to work on a Friday the 13th film. I always said I wanted to do that. And even though they're not official, I do feel like there is sort of like an honorary, I feel like I got like an honorary badge. I don't have like a membership, but I got a season's pass.
You did. Well, I mean, I like, again, it's nice to hear stories about like people being fans and growing up with these films and actually getting to know, like, it's like I go to conventions and to see these people and get to meet these people. Like one of my biggest moments was to meet Kane Hodder, because that was always my favorite interpretation of Jason. And yeah, dude, like I think Ghost Jason is part of that. Like, we have all these interpretations of Jason, but I think Ghost Jason is definitely one of them now that's talked about. One of the things, just kind of going back to the cast, that and I don't want to like forget about the new cast members, right? Like Drew, right? The gentleman that played Kyle, and then the paramedics, and the nurse, the doctor, at the all these cast who did a phenomenal job. Like that's one of the characters that I would say Kyle is one of those characters that, being a new character and just his energy from like start to finish, right? And like those like fight scenes with like Ghost Jason, right? And like it's like I don't know. It's like that one scene where he's like picking, like as soon as I was watching the film, he's like picking the leaves off the Crystal Lake sign, and he sees Crystal Lake. I'm like, in that moment, like it froze, and I thought, in this moment, he fucked around and found out that this is not where you were supposed to go, and like.
Well, I mean, a lot of people underestimate how much you can fuck around without finding.
Yeah, and especially at Crystal Lake. Like, come on now. Like, out of all places, you don't want to do that there. So, like, his energy was just great, and like, I think he brought, like, even just having these like great, memorable characters like Tommy Jarvis and the sheriff and all these other cameos. Just having these new characters in, like Kyle. It really brought so much energy, and so again, it was like a modern take. It's just a guy running in the woods, like Worthy here. He does a lot of wood stuff, and I'm like, watching. I'm like,
I do.
Would you do that? Like he does a lot of wood stuff where he's in the woods and he's doing all these things. Like I always talk about driving out to his place and going hunting with him. And watching him go hunting. And I'm like, not at Crystal Lake, at least. Don't take me to Crystal Lake. So like, how was that relationship like working with?
Yeah, no, Drew was like, honestly, like Drew, he's the MVP just because he had to do with like what a lot of people really would never expect is like win over an audience. He's going to carry the audience, and if it wasn't for Drew's, being very not having Drew having all that riz, and looking like Charlie Hunnam, he it was just he's just like we met in animation. We met on Rock Dog. You know what I mean? So again, back to animation. And we were just good friends ever since. And it was just fun. I just looked forward to every weekend going out and hanging out with my friends and going into the forest and going to this camp and having it was like having our own place. No one else knew it existed. We were out there doing our thing, having fun, we'd come back and the footage would look so good. And we'd be like, yes, we're on it. Or we'd fuck up that weekend and we'd be like, what did we do wrong? And, we'd all put our heads together and figure it out and keep going. And, Drew was a real trooper throughout the whole, whole experience, coming back from multiple films, having to sit out for a film because he didn't really have anything to do with Never Hike in the Snow. And, but we go out and got him, because we did Never Hike in the Snow, or How to Hike in the Snow, the episode of Trail Junkies to keep him in the fold and still keep him alive. So to do all that stuff, I don't know, was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
And he's a special dude. And like I said, everybody on the show, we're always going to have this, we're always going to, have this experience that we shared together. Anna Campbell coming in and playing Dr. Diana Hill was a big thing. I met her through the Jason Rising team.
That's awesome.
Met her through the Jason Rising team. And she was just MVP coming again, they're all MVPs to me, but coming in, acting her ass off, carrying the emotional weight of the film. Courtland Gordon coming in is not really a trained actor, but doing a phenomenal job at the beginning of Never Hike in the Snow. And them being the real, between Tommy, Diana, Kyle, and then Rick, them being the core. And then what's cool is that we got Brian Forrest, who is my stunt double as Jason, playing Officer Mabry. And so there was a fun moment where I got to kill him. Coach Jason got to kill the other Jason. And originally I wanted to be a cop in the movie and I wanted him to kill me. But I needed to stay behind the camera as much as possible and only do Jason stuff, not trying to do everything. Which really would have bogged us down. So but like I said, there's just so many people there that I
absolutely.
No, absolutely. One of the questions that I have, because this is based, Never Hike Alone, and you're talking about your crew and who you have on the film. Do you have somebody with you, like a guide or somebody that's with you on set that is familiar with the woods and is knows how to look for the signs of Bigfoot? Not to sound too conspiracy theory, but if I was your guy, I'd be every in between takes, I'd be banging sticks of wood together, be like, whoop, 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 because that's how you keep a Bigfoot away. I don't know if you're familiar with that technique.
No,
we
got advice from the locals that said if we saw pickup trucks with guys with AK-47s to hit, shovel, and run. And
what
so,
the hell?
Yeah,
no, you just got those guys. You got to walk up as calm as possible and say and you just look them dead in the eye and say, "You're in the wrong area. You should leave." They will, because if you're calm while they have an AK, they'll leave.
Well, apparently, the camp used to be a hideout for drugs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got cleared out by the FBI, and then it all got locked up. And then we came up there 5 years later after nobody had been there.
Oh my goodness.
So it was but we were good. There were times at night where it got scary. Not that we were in any danger, but it's just scary out there.
You gotta be careful of skinwalkers. They're a real thing.
Actually, one time I drove all the way back to Los Angeles. So the camp's in San Bernardino National Forest, which is near Big Bear, 2.5 hours away, 2 hours away. I drove all the way home. I lived in Malibu at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I got home and I realized I left the Ghost Hawk on the stairs of the cabin.
Oh, man.
And I was like, there is no effing way I am leaving that there for someone to pick up in the morning. I got to drive back right now.
Yeah.
And so I got a coffee. I went and got gas and I drove all the way back, drove up the mountain. And so when you get to the camp, there's like another like mile drive on a dirt road that's not maintained. And so this is just raw forest.
Mm-hmm.
Drive up to the camp. And I'm thinking the whole time, like, whatever. I got out of that car
after just making a movie on why you shouldn't do this.
and I had the mask in my hand and I stood up and I looked at the door that leads to the main cabin. And it was just like you could see, like the moon was out, so you could see the outline of like the highlight on the door, but beyond the door was complete blackness. Anything could have been beyond that shadow, and I wouldn't have known. And I just felt the chill go down my spine. I went, I'm getting back in my fucking car right now. I go right back to my car. I locked the door. And I just sat there and I had my headlights on. And that's what it was. My headlights were illuminating the side of the thing. But you still couldn't see in. And I was so tired, I couldn't drive at that moment. I was like, I need to fall asleep for a little bit, but I need to. I like locked the door and I just made sure that there was nothing around. And then when I had enough rest, I drove back down the mountain. I don't think I got home till like 4 a.m. And then it was. But I remember being really. I have a picture of it somewhere on my phone of like, look how creepy this is.
Now, see what I would have done in that situation, and this is my go-to move. I've told Danny about this. If I'm in a situation where I have to, it's like fight or flight, but like I don't want to look like a pussy, so I'm not going to flight. Like what you do is you just right there in front of God and everybody, you just yank down your pants, your underwear, everything, and just like walk in like a boss because. The one thing you'll find is nobody wants to fight a guy that's naked. Nobody wants to fight a naked guy. And if you are in the middle of the woods and some ne'er-do-well is out there that is going to do you harm, they see you just jump out and yank your pants down, just walk in, dick swinging. They're going to be like, I ain't fucking with this guy.
All right. Like, you know what? On second thought, I'm going to go back into the darkness of hell.
Oh. One of my final questions.
You don't even know what he's trying to say here.
No. I was looking for because
he's thinking about me yanking my pants down.
I was like, what the hell did we go into? No, one of my questions. I want to showcase this question because it was actually funny. Toyota Limit says, have you ever considered making a Michael Myers film so Danny can finally make a dream come true and make out with Michael Myers?
Never. I want to coin it. Never trick or treat alone. Never trick or treat.
I've actually been in 3 Halloween fan films. There was one called The Spirit of Haddonfield. There's another one called the Face of Michael Myers Prelude.
Oh, nice.
It was actually supposed to be one. That was actually a preview for one that never got made. But that I was in one for Jimmy Champagne and Cortland Gordon called Happy Halloween. And that one, I would say, is the one to watch. It's brutal.
Yeah.
All 3 of them are good. But like that one is like it's based on Halloween 2018. That's the type of Michael I play in it, and I go brutal in there. In the other ones, in Prelude, it's definitely like more classic Michael, and so is it in Spirit of Haddonfield, which I think is an offshoot of kind of like an H2O type world. So it's something for everybody, and I really enjoy playing Michael. I would do it again if I had the opportunity. I would definitely come and just play Michael on someone's fan film without having to do any of the creative. Just put me in the costume and let me go.
That was a question I was going to ask you before. Well, I wasn't going to ask you. Now I ask you now. It's like, would you consider doing like something else other than Friday the 13th? Like 2018, besides the original, 2018 is like one of my favorite Halloween movies. It really like made me a fan of the Michael Lord.
Well, we also did. I got to work with Cecil Laird on Dylan's New Nightmare. We brought back Miko Hughes to reprise his role as Dylan Porter from the Wes Craven's New Nightmare world. Yeah. So I've touched. I've played Freddy. Nice. There's a scene that we had to get a pickup of Freddy like hitting like Miko in the face with his glove, just kind of like flicking his chin. Yeah. And we needed a close up, but Dave was in Canada, so I actually got to play the hand acting with the glove. It was a lot of fun. So I played Michael, I played Freddy, I played Jason. Now all I have to do is play Leatherface.
Oh, that'd be dope.
I got the perfect script for you. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the perfect script.
I do like Texas Chainsaw. I would love to do Texas. In fact, we are kind of floating away from. I have something that's kind of Texas Chainsaw-ish that I pitched to Cortland that we might do, which will be fun. I can't tell you the name of it yet, but again, like I think I'm in a place where now, like many other people are making their fan films. If anyone ever wanted to book me as far as like playing a Jason or playing a, playing a Michael, playing a Leatherface, whatever it was, whatever type of role they want me to play, I would love to come out and do it just because I love acting. For me as a break. Like, the directing, the producing, the writing, like that's a lot. When I'm acting, I just feel like it's not about sort of like all that other work. It's about the work that you're doing with how am I going to, and that's a lot more, I think it's a lot more freeing because it's you. It's just you doing it rather than having to like write it down and do the charts and like do the, fill out all the, what I do pin. I'm not a big Hellraiser guy.
Can't listen to this.
No, one of my final questions for you, and I always ask every guest that comes on, and like, what advice do you give somebody, right? You are a fan who, you got so much experience doing animation, doing so. What advice do you give somebody who wants to start films and wants to pursue, something that they love to do, like, movies that they grew up watching, and like I said, viewing them in like through a filmmaker's eye, not just what they're used to, just bringing something new, a new take, a new interpretation to these characters. What advice do you give them?
Take your time, do the work. That's in the end, take your time, do the work. A lot of people think it's just go, 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 go. And they write a script, they shoot a script, and they do it, and then it doesn't come out the way they want it, and they wonder why. It's because they never stop to question what they did. Like in animation, one thing that we'd always do, we'd script, we'd board, we'd cut, we'd watch the movie, and we'd say, how can we make this movie better? And we'd go right back to the start, back to the script, back to the boards, back to how do we make this movie better? And you can get lost in that role. You just got to know sort of like, what are the signs that I want to do? And if you do the work, if you do the study of like, you read the journals on screenwriting, if you watch enough film and you understand why characters are making things, you start to be able to break down film, and then you start to be able to break down frames. You know what I mean? So it's all that. So it's about understanding how to visually speak to an audience. If you want to be a good filmmaker, you want to be a good director, visuals are your medium. Characters do talk on camera, but the visuals have to be there. And if the visuals don't hold up, then people lose interest.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what's there. Storytelling is about character. It's about good characters that basically, hypnotize people.
Yeah.
And you want to watch them go on their adventure. And if you can start with a good character, it won't matter if your cinematography is not the best. You don't have to have the best camera. You don't have to have the best of everything. You should try to work with the best equipment that you can. But if you don't, there's just certain fundamental things that if you do your homework and you do enough study, that when you're putting together a scene, where you're supposed to be in the camera, how to talk to actors, how to craft pacing and story and all of those things. So in order to do that, you have to go out and you have to try and you have to fail 1,000 times. And if you're willing to go out and fail, and you're willing to go out and do a lot of work and at first not show anybody except for yourself, a lot of the times it's filming so you can sit down and study what you've made. Yeah. And then refine it, go back out and try again. And I would suggest that if you can it's like starting a band. And if you can make friends that are willing to get together with you on the weekend and practice some songs or practice some shots or practice some scenes, if you got some friends that are actors, you got a friend who's a cinematographer, he knows somebody who does sound, they know somebody who does that. You know what I mean? That's how it starts to build. And you all get together and you keep practicing. And then when you feel like you have something that's worthy of showing, and you really feel like this is like, I would watch this, like if someone put it on right now, I would watch this on any type of channel. That's when you go out and you make something and you show it to people.
That's awesome.
everybody wants to make something and show it the right away, and they create that first impression, and it's very hard to get over that first impression. I made a version of Never Hike Alone that no one's ever seen. It didn't look good. There were shots that were out of focus. The story wasn't complete. Shots were missing. It really wasn't what I wanted it to be. And instead of just showing it to people and being like, well, this is the best I could do, I went, you know what? Let me put that off to the side. Let me start over. And what I got out of that was the Never Hike Alone that came out in 2017.
That's awesome. We got one more question from Wade Crates, and I don't want to miss because he's been asking amazing questions tonight. He says, got one more question. If you could rewrite one horror origin story, who would you pick?
Oh, I mean, I would rewrite Jason in a heartbeat.
I've got one.
But
Christine.
if I,
Christine?
Christine
Okay.
Christine would be a good remake.
Okay.
Other than Jason, who would I want to go back and start from scratch? Ooh,
Always take a trip down Haddonfield.
No, I feel like Michael's well covered, Freddy's well covered, Leatherface is well covered.
I don't know. I don't know if Freddy's well covered. The last remake was so uncomfortable to watch.
I just think that Freddy is so good out of the box. Like Nightmare on Elm Street is one of those series that like the first one is the best movie, and the story of what he is already like, you don't have to mess with that. Like that's already one. That's chef's kiss, top level. Like Michael and Freddy are both top tier as far as origins go. First movie, base character slasher. They're perfect. Jason is an amalgamation of luck because his story makes no sense, but he just looks so good that like he gets away with it. Damn, like what would be if I don't know, maybe
I think one that's been itching for a remake that I think that, or maybe not remake, but like a retelling is Wishmaster. I would love to see a new take on Wishmaster. Revamp it a little bit. You'd have to kind of revamp it a little bit to make it, to fit in our climate. But I would love to see a Wishmaster, a new Wishmaster.
I grew up like a big fan of like the Anchor Bay movies. I would love to go and do like a really high end Puppet Master. A really good, like not just
we got a lot of action figures. We can do some action figure stuff.
Yeah, I think I would love to do like a whole Puppet Master movie, like with like that type of like my style. You know what I mean? Like doing it that all of us, it's a cinematic Puppet Master. Yeah, and like it would be sort of epic in a way that would, I don't know, that really just like bring these dolls to life, because I've always been fascinated with those characters. I loved who they were. The Andre Toulon sort of backstory is like something that I think could be shifted. I don't think it necessarily has to be like, it could be updated for this world. I think like, I don't know if it has to be a former Nazi like scientist thing, or, somebody escaping Nazi Germany, or it could be, you know what I mean? Or even just a reimagining of them finding dolls now and what you could do. Because I feel like what they've been doing with the films lately is very, it doesn't even feel like it holds up to the stuff that was made in the 90s. Like, so that, I would actually, what movie I would love to go back and do? I talked about this with a friend of mine a while back, was The Burning. A Burning but A Burning is another one that's just sort of almost perfect. I just think it would be a nice sort of like, if they can get Friday the 13th back out in the theater, somebody should make A Burning, for sure. So there's that. I would say, somewhere in there. But other than that, I mean, if I could work with other entities, I would love to work with like Predator. I would love to work with, that's definitely a franchise I would love to dive into.
What about Jaws? I know our PR department would not want a new Jaws, but I would love a new Jaws.
A friend of mine pitched a good idea to me a long time ago, of saying like someone should do the SS Indianapolis. If you're going to do Jaws, do the SS Indianapolis. Yeah, and about the ship going down and Quint in the water.
Our PR department always says that. He always he's I don't know if he's watching. He probably just became a fan.
He probably went to bed. He's an old man. He went to bed.
He always says it. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Vince.
No, that's basically it. I mean, I think that would be a good story, and you can get his son, who does a great impersonation of him. You just have him play Quint.
Yeah, no, for real, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about that.
Robert
a lot.
Shaw's son.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wow, man. Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, with your style, I would probably love to see like My Bloody Valentine. Like, I would love to see like you tackle something like that, right? Because it's kind of, it's a serial killer with a mask and it's a minor. Like, that would be really dope, right? Just kind of but you like, it's a curveball to say, even mention Puppet Master, because a lot of people don't mention that. So it's really dope that you mentioned
someone mentioned Event Horizon in the
yes.
A friend of mine, Ben, wants to do a Event Horizon fan film. It's called Horizons. It's called Horizons. He's worked on it for a long time, and I was going to be in it too. It's pretty rad.
Nice.
We should talk to him about that again. See if he still wants to do it. But yeah, Event Horizon would be fun.
Still play. So Vince, listen, dude, just hearing all the stuff that you've done and like all the work that you put in with this amazing cast, amazing crew, everybody behind the scenes, because I know it takes like a village to kind of put this together, man. And I know you had a lot of support, man. It makes me appreciate the film so much more, and I definitely understand. Like, I can never have a schedule like you. I thought I had like a really tough, because with kids, and I'm like, yeah,
I'm sure you have.
Now I know that when I'm home, I'm like, I'm having a rough day. I was like, Mr. DiSanti's somewhere doing something and like 50 million things at once now.
You can rest assured. You can rest assured as you've had your bad day and you're
listen.
for a nap. You can rest assured.
Listen, being a parent is not easy. Being a parent is not easy. So shout out to all the parents. But I have a game for you, a very simple game. And then also too, before I mentioned the game, for everybody that's watching, I didn't want to forget this. I have a special giveaway, and seeing as we're talking about Never Hike Alone and all things Friday the 13th, because this is what the fan film is based off. I am doing a giveaway tonight. I am giving back. So tonight I am giving away a Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives NECA figure, but this figure is signed by none other than Jason himself, Mr. CJ Graham. So I am going to be giving this away tonight. So stay tuned for that. So, but before that, I have a special game.
You want me to go ahead and put the hashtag up?
Hashtag. Go ahead, right? Put the hashtag. So my co-host is going to put a hashtag on. So the rules are very simple. You just click on the hashtag, like you type in the hashtag in the comments.
Yeah, you type it in.
Type it, and that's your entry. You only get one entry, and you have to be in the U.S. No internationals. I am sorry. That costs a lot.
He's not that sorry.
So definitely, this is us just paying it forward and giving it back to all you awesome people who have been supporting the A Worthy Addiction show and supporting me in Unworthy, but also too coming on and showing our guests some love today. And while we're doing that, I want to kind of just showcase.
Type in the hashtag take a hike, all lowercase, because I find it all gets fucking wonky if I add in uppercase. So
there you go.
Hashtag take a hike. You could win this awesome giveaway from Danny.
Yes, absolutely. And then just a quick, I'm going to share my screen really, really quick because I really want to showcase this for anybody that's interested in looking at some of the perks on the Indiegogo right now. We have I just purchased the Never Hike Legacy Blu-ray, so you could get all 3 Blu-rays, Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and Never Hike Alone 2 now. You could get those now. You could get a couple of posters, awesome posters. I have one. And Mr. DiSanti, some of these do come signed by you as well. Yeah. Is that correct? Awesome.
Yeah, you have the option to have me sign it. So yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the copy of Never Hike Alone 2, Friday the 13th fan film. So you could definitely, this is the Jarvis versus Jason edition. You could get this one as well. So this is all on the Womp Stomp Films link tree. So you could go check that out and go support this. Listen, it's I don't know how much I don't know what else to say. These are like amazing films, and like again, you could watch these on YouTube right now. But again, just to have a copy, I currently right now own the copy of the first Never Hike Alone Ghost Cut, and I tell you, like, just to support, it's amazing. Other than that, like, is there? So I got a game. Oh, there it is. So I have this game for you. So basically, I have this game put together for you. So usually I have 10 photos where I show you, and then you have to come up with one word to describe that photo. So because this is Friday the 13th talk, it's all Friday the 13th based. So here we go. So they're gonna all be all random. Again, one word to describe the film. And the first one is Freddy versus Jason.
Dopey.
Dopey. Okay.
Yeah, it's a dopey movie.
Man,
It's so dopey.
I was
unworthy.
I was gonna say amazing. I love this movie.
I was gonna say
failed
fun.
to deliver on so many
fun.
levels. It failed to deliver, but it
Goofy.
is such a great movie with how fun it is.
It was fun to put two icons together, icons of horror together.
The dude in the cornfield where they're doing the beer bongs, like I was like, that was my high school life. I love this.
Yeah. All right, next one. We got Friday the 13th, The New Beginning.
Damn enchiladas.
All right.
Viewers or whatever.
Unworthy.
I don't know. It's not my favorite.
Okay. Just one word, whatever it is.
That's it. Not my favorite.
Okay.
I can make it one word.
That's a lot of words for one word.
Make it one word. I can make it one word, but as many White Claws as I've had. Not my favorite.
I'm gonna call it a gem because it is a gem. I like it. 2009, Friday the 13th.
Ooh, this is
let down.
This is gonna be.
I think you kind of elaborated a little bit, but I love to hear one word to describe this film for you.
Underwhelming.
Underwhelming. Okay. Unworthy.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at Clint says that's a lot of words for one word answer. I think this was okay. That's gonna be my word. Okay.
I'm going to say unique. It's very unique. Next one we have Jason Takes Manhattan.
Julius.
Let me think of a word for it. It's let me think. Underrated.
Underrated. Okay.
Underrated.
Julius. That was my one word.
Julius. I'm gonna say okay. It's okay to watch.
Oh, fuck you! This is the one that we got banned from. We got a YouTube ban because you started playing it.
It's not my favorite. All right, next one. The New Blood, Friday the 13th.
It's cheesy.
Cheesy, okay.
Yeah, this one's cheesy.
I'm gonna try to roll two words into one again and say Jean Grey because the lady is Jean Grey. It's Jean Grey.
Favorite. This is my favorite.
This is actually I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go this and re-say it. Neutered because it got cut to death. And then the ending that would have saved it is ended up on the cutting room floor. So we got that. That's why I said like cheesy. We got like the weird ending that like it's like this crazy ass like brutal movie, and then it's the goofiest ending of all time. It's just like,
and that's the reason why I love it so much too, because
Eight does that too. It's like it could like 8 would have been great, but the ending just sucks so hard. You're just like,
what the hell? Yeah, it's like what the hell happened? Yeah. Like I love it. First introduction of Kane Hodder, I love that look of Jason. It was awesome. All right, next one.
Jason X, right?
Jason X.
The GOAT.
The GOAT. Okay. And Worthy, what do you think?
Oh man, I want to say epic because this is an epic fucking movie. It makes no goddamn sense.
No.
But it is amazing. Actually, let me. Is sleeping bag one word? I'm gonna say sleeping bag. That's
that should have been for part 7.
No,
But
this
okay.
is the one where he wraps the broad up in the two
Yeah, well, yeah,
computer generated broads there, the
he
topless,
does.
gratuitous nudity, and then he wraps them up in a sleeping bag and just
Okay.
smashing the shit out of each other with them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Okay. I'm gonna say silly. It's silly. It's not. It's one of those movies you can't take. You
It
gotta
is
watch it
silly.
high.
Oh, to
You
hell
gotta
with
be
you.
high. You gotta be high to watch it. You can't take it serious. It's a
I
fun.
watch it
It's a
all the time, and I'm never
yeah.
high. Come on.
All right. Next one. Last one is Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Is it
Brutal.
though?
Okay.
Like brutal positive.
Yes.
Like Jason is definitely
Yeah.
at his most brutal in this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Unworthy.
I want to just say my one word is final with a question. Final?
Okay. Okay.
Final? Because it wasn't. It wasn't the final.
I'm going to say Dead Fuck only because that movie is like after like the first one, that is the best of the series, in my opinion. It is the best. It is my beside after like my favorite, that is the best one. And I agree, it's definitely brutal as hell. So good job. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, that was it. I usually have 10, but I wanted to do 7 because there are 12 movies in this series. And memorable mentions, the original, and
We
you
could have
got
done them.
we could have did part 6. Those are part 6 is awesome, and then the original is awesome as well. So I guess we could do this giveaway, right? Or yeah,
All right,
or
yeah,
do you
sure.
want to do a couple of plugs? What do you want to do?
I noticed that you had some plugs up on there. Do you want to do
Yeah,
the plug?
so well, before I plug anything and say anything, Vincent DiSanti, thank you so much again for just coming on with us and taking the time just to hang out with us tonight and just talk about your journey and your films that are fucking great. And again, everybody that's watching, if you haven't watched Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, or Never Hike Alone 2, go to YouTube and go watch the film and go the extra mile and go on the Indiegogo and purchase yourself the Never Hike Alone, or you pre-order Never Hike Alone to show some support and some love, because again, from everything Vince had said and with including the whole cast and crew, they put their heart and soul. This is not just somebody, and we get that a lot in movies, right? We get people who get these properties and don't know what to do with that. They don't know what they don't have no shit clue of what to do, or and the movies are all over the place. And like at least with these films, you see the love of the franchise. You see a fan actually putting, making you, excited and putting a little homage and even bringing all these legacy characters. Like, how fucking cool is that, right? To see Tommy
Yeah,
Jarvis back.
and remember that on March 31st we're closing the thing, so that's like
Okay.
that's going to be one of your last chances to be able to order anything.
Yeah.
For this round and get all that stuff. We're going to do the final cut sometime this summer, but that may not be available for a while. So if you want to own these on Blu-ray, you got to get them now because they're not going to be available forever.
Yeah.
And once we stop doing these crowdfunds, that's it. There's only going to be a few thousand copies of each of these movies out into the world. And I will tell you, we sell them for what they sell on eBay. We sell them for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
Get them now. The value only goes up, and the value is only going to continue to go up as more years go on, and as sold, and as physical media starts to die out even more. This film is going to go, like, eventually YouTube will probably blow up at some point, or we'll probably get kicked off YouTube. At least you'll have our Blu-ray. And it's something, if you're a Friday the 13th fan, it fits right in with the series. You can put, like, our Blu-rays, look really nice too. So like when you put them on the shelf, they fit in with the rest of the films. And they earn their place beside them.
Yeah. And Ghost Jason is part of that crew now. He's part of the Kane Hodder and the Ted Whites and the all these interpretations of Jason, CJ Graham Jasons. He's definitely one of them.
It's cool to see the Ghost Jason out there at the conventions. People just showing up in that. That's pretty rad.
NECA needs to make one. That'll be nice. I know you had a figure. Cool. You guys had a figure that it was like one of those like miniature ones. It kind of looked like a Funko Pop a little bit, right? It was pretty dope. As far as my plugs are concerned, I have we started the AWA _ weekly fix, and basically what we do is we showcase folks in our community and show them some appreciation and show them some love for all the amazing things that they do. So first off, I'm going to start off with Dami Sweet and More. Now, I have gotten this beautiful, beautiful tumbler, which I got today. And this is a coffee tumbler with my Toy Addict 17 logo and the A-Worthy Addiction logo on the background. And this is my favorite tumbler. This is my favorite coffee drink, and I'm going to be using this. So if you want to give somebody a beautiful gift, and maybe customize a beautiful gift for someone.
Get yourself a Toy Addict fucking
no, get yourself
I need to get a Toy Addict.
Get yourself whatever you want, because she will customize it into whatever you like. You want to get yourself a Never Hike Alone Ghost Jason tumbler, go get that now. That'll be great. or if you want to get my face on this, cheese it.
I want your face on a tumbler. I really do.
Well, good news, Unworthy. I have a personal gift. I will be placing an order for my buddy so he can have his personal tumbler. So when he goes to work. So again,
I don't want my face on it. I want your face on it.
Okay, no problem. Right. So again, go follow Demi Sweet and More. She does a bunch of amazing stuff, and these tumblers are amazing. They come with metal straws as well. So I'm telling you, all the work she put in, and again, she like showcases it for you to see if you like it. And I'm telling you, she knocked it right out of the park. I am super excited to have this. This is gonna be my my tumbler for work now. And if you want one Unworthy, I will get you one of these. So
I want one. I want a Toy Addict 17 tumbler. Gotta have
Next, I had the pleasure of being on the Weekly Habit yesterday with everybody's favorite dad, Cobra Dad, and Toy Art Unlimited. Go check him out every Wednesday at Unworthy. Correct me on the time. It's at 8 o'clock.
I think it varies. I think it depends.
Go check him out. That Cobra Dad is the comic book sensei. He definitely goes over and goes through some comic books, and you're not getting that a lot. A lot of people are talking about toys. They're talking about a lot of things. He actually still goes to the comic shop.
If you need comic book knowledge, Cobra Dad is your man.
Cobra Dad is the man.
Yeah.
Definitely check him out.
For comic book knowledge.
Yes, definitely check him out. He's doing an awesome live on IG, and he's just going through comics and just giving his opinions. And also, too, his voiceovers. He's going to be my new audio. I told him he needs to buy a comic, read it, and then send the recordings to me, because I don't need to buy comics. He will spoil a comic for you, and it sounds better. Like, I don't want the comic now. I just rather hear him talk about it. It's great. So definitely check him out. And last but not least, the Skeleton's Tomb is live on YouTube now. So please go give them a follow. Go subscribe to their channel. They're on their second live episode right now, hosted by Skeletons Collectibles, Wentzilla, and Mr. Deadman One. Please go show them some support. Go show them some love. They are amazing guys. And again, they've transitioned from IG into YouTube. So please, if you have not done so, go show them some love. Go subscribe. Go tune in, because those guys are a lot of fun. So much love to them. And that's my plugs, man. I mean, I think that's go
to chubsywubsy.com and use the promo code Rowdy15, and you can get 15% off of your purchase of anything that's $25 or more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you like toys and you want to get some fucking toys and you want to save some money, use our promo code at chubsywubsytoys.com or chubsywubsy.com. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
And I bet if you put in a little special note in there, this put right in there, Aunt Wubsy is the most beautiful human being on the planet, I bet you might get maybe an extra 5%. I'm just guessing. That's not a guarantee.
Mrs. Vince, do you have any other plugs you want to plug, sir? Anything you want to plug?
Just make sure people are out there supporting the Womp Stomp Films YouTube channel. Check in. We're going to be tomorrow night. I'm going to be on with Jason Parker from Friday the 13th franchise.com.
Nice.
Carl Winnery and James Sweet from Jason Rising. We're going to have a little Friday the 13th roundtable. We're going to talk to fans and listen to them and see what they want to I want to see what the fans think is coming up. You know what I mean? Like, what do the fans want to see from Friday the 13th? We're going to talk about it a little bit. We're just going to, talk about stuff that's in the news and, film news and, Friday the 13th news in general, because there's been some discussion about like Jason Blum and trying to get his hands on it. There's obviously the Crystal Lake series that's coming up. That's going to be shooting hopefully this summer. And then there's, the possibility of a movie. There's supposed to be a new game that's being announced. So there's lots of stuff on the horizon. So, we're going to talk about some of that stuff tomorrow night. And, we try to check in every Friday night and do that. We're doing that in the meantime while I'm, still building stuff for the Blu-rays. Check out Indiegogo. Keep an eye out for future, Womp Stomp film stuff there. Keep an eye out for stuff from the Dylan's New Nightmare team, which may still be that campaign may still be open as well. So definitely check that out if you want to get some stuff. I know the Bath Bomb campaign is still open. We have another film called Bath Bomb, which was a Giallo film. They're releasing their vinyl, which is on their Indiegogo campaign. If you want to check that out. And just a real quick shout out. Congratulations to our team. We were just announced that we're going to be at Panic Fest 2024 in Kansas City, Missouri. We're also going to be at the New Bedford Film Festival here in South Coast, Massachusetts. Never Hike Alone 2 will be playing on the screen. So you definitely have to come down and check that out. Definitely check out those things. And Bath Bomb will be playing at Panic Fest as well, actually making its world premiere. So if you're a backer of the film, or if you just heard about the film and want to support it, definitely, and you're from this, the Kansas City area, definitely go check out Panic Fest. It's in a great shorts block too. We Joined a Cult is in there by Chris McElroy, and a lot of other really good shorts are in that one too. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody that's watching, if you have not, go head over to Womp Stomp Films and go give them a follow so you could be up to date with any news from Womp Stomp Films or anything. Also, too, go back into the Indiegogo. Go check out those perks. Please get your copy of Never Hike Alone 2 before the month is over, because you want to get that copy. Again, you never know with YouTube. You never know. So enjoy it now, but it's good to have a copy of it and add it to your Friday the 13th collection.
Yeah, not only does the Womp Stomp Films... I was going to say one more thing. Not only does Womp Stomp Films have the movies as well, we also have great behind the scenes content. So definitely check out the behind the scenes documentaries we have for Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow. We have gag reels, bonus scenes, stuff like that. So if you like the movies, you want to know more, dive into that behind the scenes section, because there's lots of fun material in there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Vince, thank you so much for being on with us, and again, just taking the time just to share everything, dude, and just letting us know, because I knew the minute we asked you and you said yes, it was kind of, I knew. I was like, to hear about everything. I am fanboy. I am up here today. So I think this is a good time to kind of go into our giveaway. So
before I put up the giveaway, one last question. And I know that you said you're a busy man, but I just wanted to ask one last question. What is the over-under on a never know what somebody else did last summer alone?
Probably not for me. Not for me, but if someone comes with the right script, maybe I'll help them crowdfund it.
All right. Fair enough. I can respect that.
All right, so here
we're going to get into this giveaway.
Good luck, everybody. Again, CJ Graham signed Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Voorhees.
Cool.
Here we go. Good luck. Hey! Congratulations, Allie girl. This is yours. Please DM me or DM the A Worthy Addiction page. Give us your info, and so we can have this sent out to you. Congratulations. First time on the show. Thank you for watching our show tonight. And this is yours. You have a CJ Graham signed Jason Voorhees. So maybe you can get this signed by Mr. Vicente DiSanti one day. Maybe you'll run into him and get it signed. Or Bob Matthews.
At a future con.
That'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. Well, and thank you for everybody. Again, thank you for everyone who tuned in. Or if you're watching it on a replay, thank you for coming on and just showing us love. But more importantly, showing our guests some love. And definitely go check out these films if you haven't done so. If you're a horror fan, a Friday the 13th fan, or if you're not a horror fan at all, go check them out and appreciate the hard work these amazing artists and producers and all these people behind the scenes put into this film, because I'm telling you, the cinematography alone is just what's going to wheel you wide in. That beginning scene with those aerial shots are fucking amazing. So definitely go check that out. So again, shout out to everybody and for watching us, and hit the like, subscribe. As always, we love you. And Mr. DiSanti, we like to end the show on a quote. So if you have any quote that's from a book, from the film, or something that you've always liked to say, we always like to end the show in that note. Also, too, if you want to if you got a few minutes to hang out backstage, you can. If not, if you have to jump off, and head over, do other things, we totally understand as well. So we appreciate you either way. You're awesome. So is there a quote you want to end the show with us tonight?
Oh wow. Let me look it up so I get it right.
Okay.
There's a quote. I'm a big Kurt Vonnegut fan.
Okay.
Let me see.
Is there something in the way?
No, it's I'm trying to let me see.
I try to fill up awkward silences.
Oh, I was a victim of a series of accidents, as are we all. That life is really a series of accidents, and we all just sort of deal with them and kind of move on. It's something I like. It's from the book Sirens of Titan, and it's one of my favorite quotes. I'm a big Vonnegut fan, but if you ever, it's a big recommended read. Sirens of Titan, Kurt Vonnegut. That's probably my favorite book.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Beautiful. And thank you, everybody. So with that being said,
as always, and Clint, I'm looking directly at you this time. Good night, beautiful. Is it showing? What the hell? Oh my goodness. Sorry. Here we go. Not working. All right, well, like and subscribe and all that shit. I guess.